So it was really kind of nice that Donald Trump just kind of disappeared for a while after the 2024 election. It was really nice not having to hear his stupid voice or look at his dumb face. But unfortunately, all good things must come to an end, they say. And he recently sat down for an interview over at NBC with Kristen Welker. Now, of course, the interview did not go particularly well for him. And I wanted to take a look at some of the absolutely insane things he was saying during this sit down. And we can go ahead and kick things off by Donald Trump trying to explain what a trade deficit is. Listen closely to what he thinks a trade deficit is. This is wild.
I think we will. I'm a big believer in tariffs. I think tariffs are the most beautiful word. I think they're beautiful. It's going to make us rich. We're subsidizing Canada to the tune of over $100 billion a year. We're subsidizing Mexico for almost $300 billion. We shouldn't be subsidizing. Why are we subsidizing these countries? If we're going to subsidize them, let them become a state. We're subsidizing Mexico, and we're subsidizing Canada, and we're subsidizing many countries all over the world. And all I want to do is I want to have a level, fast, but fair playing field.
So Donald Trump thinks that we are subsidizing other countries if a trade deficit exists between the two countries. And not only that, he still has a complete misunderstanding of what a tariff is or how they work. So in Donald Trump's world, he thinks that Canada and Mexico, they're taking advantage of the United States because we're subsidizing them with our dollars because there's a trade deficit. And so to get back at these allied nations, Donald Trump wants to implement these tariffs against these other countries, because he has the misunderstanding of thinking that it is those countries that are going to pay the tariffs. So in Donald Trump's broken worldview, he thinks that he's just playing four-dimensional chess. He thinks he just thinks he's smarter than everybody else. It is so wild to me. A subsidy means that we would be paying other countries or helping them with the purchase of our goods. A trade deficit just means that we are importing more than we're exporting, or vice versa. It doesn't mean that we're subsidizing other countries. This dude's going to be the next president of the United States, and he has a complete misunderstanding of basic economic principles. Absolutely insane. Let's go ahead and move on to Donald Trump doubling down on the idea that we can just deport families together. No big deal.
Let me ask you about another group of people, the estimated 4 million families in America who have mixed immigration status. So I'm talking about parents who might be here illegally, but the kids are here legally. Your borders are.
You're talking about separation.
Yeah, well, I mean, there are two aspects to this. Your border czar, Tom Homan, said they can be deported together. Correct. Is that the plan?
Well, that way you keep well, I don't want to be breaking up families. So the only way you don't break up the family is you keep them together, and you have to send them all back.
This is absolutely disgusting. What he is saying is that if a child was born here, but their parents are undocumented, that we just need to round them all up and ship them back to the parents' home country. Where is the humanity? How is it fair to punish a child for the sins of their parents? How is it fair to take a citizen of the United States of America and send them off to a country that they have never known? This is not what America is supposed to be. There are other ways to solve this problem. If the family is contributing to society, if the parents are working and they're paying the taxes, wouldn't it make more sense to give them a pathway to citizenship? Maybe make them pay a fine for coming into the country in an undocumented way? That's the America I want to live in. But I've said it time and time and time again. The cruelty is the point for these people. MAGA wants to be cruel. They want to blame all of their problems on other people. That's why this idea of mass deportations is so appealing to many of them, because they can just point to that group of people over there and blame all of their problems on them. This is absolutely reprehensible stuff. I'm really just hoping that this administration is going to be so incompetent that they're not going to be able to get much of their wish list done. Let's go ahead and move on to Donald Trump saying that, yeah, I'm going to end birthright citizenship.
You've promised to end birthright citizenship on day one. Is that still your plan?
Yeah, absolutely.
The 14th Amendment, though, says that, quote, all persons born in the United States are citizens. Can you get around the 14th Amendment with an executive action?
We're going to have to get a change. We'll maybe have to go back to the people, but we have to end it. We're the only country that has it.
Through an executive action?
You know, we're the only country that has it. Do you know, if somebody sets a foot, just a foot, 1 foot, you don't need two, on our land, congratulations, you are now a citizen of the United States of America. Yes, we're going to end that because it's ridiculous.
Through executive action?
Well, if we can, through executive action.
Donald Trump is the biggest idiot in our country. We are not the only country that has birthright citizenship. In fact, most Western countries have birthright citizenship. It is not true that if you step 1 foot in the country, you automatically get to claim citizenship. That is not how that works. And how many times have people like Trump or other Republicans told us that they are the party of the Constitution? They want to uphold our constitutional values. But then you have this authoritarian outburst by Donald Trump thinking that he can just overwrite the Constitution with an executive order. Just imagine if Biden tried to write an executive order that threw out the Second Amendment. Imagine how many heads would explode if Biden tried to do something like that. Donald Trump is just a fascist wannabe. He has these authoritarian ambitions. He thinks that he can rule by dictate and overrule the Constitution when it is convenient for him. This should be pushed back on hard. Hopefully, it will be caught up in the courts. This is directly contrary to what our Constitution says, and hopefully they won't be able to do it. But it should be telling that Donald Trump thinks that by the stroke of a pen, by the stroke of executive action, that he can just throw out parts of the Constitution. Absolutely despicable. Let's go ahead and move on. Donald Trump is doubling down on the idea that he has concepts of a plan. Let's go ahead and take a look.
You said during the campaign you had concepts of a plan. Do you have an actual plan at this point for health care?
Yes, we have concepts of a plan that would be better.
Still just concepts? Do you have a fully developed plan?
Let me explain. We have the biggest healthcare companies looking at it. We have doctors. We're always looking because Obamacare stinks. It's lousy. There are better answers. If we come up with a better answer, I would present that answer to Democrats and to everybody else, and I do something about it. But until we have that, or until they can approve it, but we're not going to go through the big deal. I am the one that saved Obamacare.
So this is just another example of how Donald Trump likes to engage in doublespeak. On the one hand, he'll say things like, Obamacare is terrible, nobody likes it. And then on the other hand, he'll say, I'm the one that saved Obamacare. I'm the one that did it. I'm the one who saved your health care. This is something Donald Trump engages in quite frequently. He wants to take credit for something that people like. Many people rely on Obamacare for their health care. But then he also wants to be the anti-establishment or anti-government health care plans. And so he'll say that he's going to have concepts of a plan to overturn Obamacare. The wild thing to me is that Donald Trump got so roasted after he said he has concepts of a plan during the debate, and yet he is doubling down on this idea yet again. I mean, he has been, in the political landscape for 8 to 10 years now, and he still has no understanding of how he might want to pursue a healthcare plan. He is just an incompetent buffoon. It is so embarrassing that this is the guy who's going to be our next president. Let's go ahead and look at one last video. This is probably the most terrifying of them all. This is the most fascistic of them all, Donald Trump is yet again saying that people who served in the January 6th committee, well, they should go to jail.
Listen, this was a committee, a big deal. They lied. And what did they do? They deleted and destroyed a whole year and a half worth of testimony. Do you know that I think those people committed a major crime.
Sir.
And Cheney was behind it. Well, and so was Benny Thompson and everybody on that committee. For what they did, honestly, they should go to jail.
Holy crap, does he not look like a complete psychopath? Listen to me. What they did. Psychopath. Donald Trump is just lying yet again to your face. The January 6th committee accumulated so much evidence. And guess what? You can go view all of that evidence online right now. But in Donald Trump's world, he says that people who served in the January 6th committee, they destroyed all the evidence, that this was a show trial that was just persecuting him. And so that these people need to be thrown in jail. Now, he does go on to say that, well, he's not going to direct his FBI to go after these people. But if I had to take a guess, people like Kash Patel or Pam Bondi, they're probably picking up notes when he gives interviews like this. This is not how the President of the United States should be acting. This is fascist behavior, the forceful suppression of your opposition. People who served in a committee that tried to hold Donald Trump accountable should not be a target of Donald Trump. Just because he perceives them as his enemies doesn't mean he has carte blanche to be able to use the Justice Department to go after these people. So we need to be here every step of the way, calling this stuff out. We need to push back on these authoritarian tendencies and help the American people understand that this isn't normal and this is not okay. This is 100% un-American bullshit. But he's going to be our next president. Absolutely wild. So I'm not going to say you should go watch the rest of this interview. It was a terrible interview. Donald Trump was low energy, said a whole bunch of crazy things, like most of us would probably expect. And on the other hand, I just don't think Kristen Welker did a very great job. I think she may have been granted this interview because she agreed to not push back on certain things. But I think it is really doing a disservice to the American people. And I'm kind of torn on it because we want people like Kristen Welker to be conducting these types of interviews. She's obviously going to be asking harder questions than somebody like Fox News. But when she doesn't push back and she doesn't provide fact-checking along the way, like we've seen many other reporters be able to do, it just rubs me the wrong way. It makes it kind of look like there's some way complicit with the whole thing and they kind of soften Trump's image. But Trump probably wouldn't be giving these interviews if they pushed harder on his false claims. So it's a really tough line to draw, I guess you could say. But I would much prefer Kristen Welker to be doing these interviews than somebody like Sean Hannity. She's obviously going to be asking more adversarial questions that the American people should have the answer to. So, I don't know. I'll leave it there for now. I will, well, if you guys got anything out of this video, please remember to smash that like button and subscribe. Maybe share it with a friend or two. I'd very much appreciate that. I'm trying to make it to 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year, and I would very much appreciate your support. If you want to see just how incompetent Donald Trump is when it comes to his own tariff policies, go ahead and watch that video on the screen now. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on the next one.